Well, that was a great way to kick us off, wasn't it? And of course, we're still joined here at Elite Business Live 2024 by the amazing Allyson, Stuwart-Allen. Thank you for everything you have just shared. We're also joined next to you. We have Russell Dalgleish, who is chair and co-founder of the Scottish Business Network. And you are also, you have many, many roles, Russell. I feel exhausted looking at these lists of things that you do. You're an advisor to the Department for Business and Trade. And of course, the day job is founder and managing partner of Exolta Capital Partners, which offers consultancy services to businesses around the world. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, good. We're halfway there. So Kim Antoniou, who I know very well, a serial founder whose current business is Auris Tech, which is tackling childhood illiteracy around the globe. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. We're doing well so far, so good. And Garima Srivastava, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Senior Trade and Customs Specialist at the Institute of Export and International Trade. And that is, I think I'm right in saying, a professional membership body supporting the interests of everyone involved in the export world, right? But you're also, I noticed, a bit of a global citizen yourself. So you went to university in the US?
Yeah,
and then you started your career in India, and now you're here in the UK. So I love that, and hopefully you can share some of the kind of wisdom you've gained on your journey around the world. So Kim, I'm going to come to you first, actually. So because you're just sort of starting your global expansion with Auris, aren't you?
Yeah, we are.
And in fact, you're starting with India, which I'm hearing a lot about actually as a journalist, particularly post-Brexit. I thought I'd get the B word in there straight off the bat. It's a really exciting export market, isn't it? So why don't you tell us about what's happening?
Yeah, so India, we've been doing some pilots over in India over the last sort of 18 months. And we've got a reading platform. So if you consider us sort of Siri for reading, we've built this patented voice technology that supports children and adults in the fullness of time with their reading skills, their reading and their literacy and their fluency. And so, of course, you know, we figured that countries like India and Africa are really important because the need for English language is incredibly important. But yes, we've learnt a great deal. So we, as you said, we're sort of relatively early now in our journey. But I think the first thing that we found, and that's because we've got some really amazing advisors. One of our NEDs, the lovely RTLI actually, knows the territory really, really well, and actually helped us by introducing us to what we consider a really trusted partner. And I think that was, for us, that was the most important thing, sort of finding a route, a trusted route that you believe that can help you with that. And that was really important. The first thing they taught us is that don't think you can do what you're doing over here and replicate that. You know, our platform is very much built almost like a playbook. So, you know, it's a platform children read out loud, and in the background you've got all this rich reading data. So the platform works in, you know, pretty much the same in any territory. But just because it works in a way over here doesn't mean that you can replicate that exactly over there. And we learn, you know, if you're going to work in India, work like the Indians. And so that was probably the first learning.
And have you spent much time? Have you been kind of boots on the ground?
Yeah,
that
absolutely. Only because I fell in love with India. No, I think that was the first thing. I think it wasn't just as well. Firstly, it started off with, if we're partnering with these people over there, we need to meet the people. We need to understand who we're working with. But actually, I was really urged to get to know the environment, get to know the people. And I mean, literally, the first time I arrived at Delhi Airport, and no one can prepare you for that, can they? It was like, it was, well, firstly, I fell in love. I mean, I found the Indian people to be so absolutely lovely. But just understanding the culture, I had no idea. I thought the biggest problem over there was going to be connectivity, but they've got better 5G in the worst possible areas over there than we've got in Canary Wharf. So, you know, what you think are going to be your problems, we found haven't been our problems.
Russell, I can see you nodding along there. Does that resonate with your experience, that sometimes the things that you think are going to be challenges aren't at all, and you need to kind of challenge your own assumptions about a new market?
I think we all, as human beings, suffer from something that's described as unconscious bias, whereby the way we've been brought up, the way we've been educated, the way we work, we start to build up beliefs about how business will work, how people will be in different parts of the world. And it's only by traveling that you can really understand the reality. And the whole thing about doing international, I'm going to give you an example of what international business is about from this stage. So I really resonated with you with no one can describe what it's like when the automatic doors open at Delhi Airport and you're outside. All 5 of your senses come to life immediately. It's an incredible experience. But also, when you're working internationally, you're looking for connections. You're looking for ways to partner with someone, ways to work together. And you didn't know this, but I support a charity working out of a slum in Delhi. And what they do is they educate young girls in speaking English. Right? So that's exactly what they do. So it's a great match-up with what you do. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking to have your eyes open to find that opportunity to say, oh, I can help you with that. That would be a good thing to do. The second part is to play your culture. People around the world have a huge respect for people who come from the UK. We ourselves can sometimes be quite self-depreciating about it. And we can also find it quite difficult when people are so excited to talk to you about the royal family, for example. But for the whole world, they're digesting the royal family as almost like a hit TV show. So they want to know what we believe about the things that are happening. And it's really interesting that we have to re-educate ourselves to say, well, I am Russell. I am the expert in the royal family in this meeting in Jamaica because I'm the only British person there. And it's interesting to use those. And all the time, what you're trying to do is to build trust. I've got a very good friend who's a VC from California, Eric McAfee, and he came up with this expression: we do business today at the speed of trust. How quickly can we trust each other to work together? And that's why a trusted partner introduced by a third party is so important, because that gives you that trust immediately.
And just to go back to what you were saying, the international language of the royal family, I think the other thing that translates is football. I feel like everywhere we go, my husband forms alliances much quicker than me because he is usually the one who talks about football in our relationship. But so Garima, we're hearing a lot about India here as an exciting export market. Are you seeing lots of businesses kind of being interested in markets outside of Europe, given what happened with Brexit?
Yeah, so because I'm an international trade lawyer, it's also important to understand when we are looking at a foreign market, when we are trying to expand into a new market, besides the cultural differences, the political situation, or the market demand in that particular geographical location, it's also important to be mindful of the regulatory aspects. So when you are exporting your goods, for example, in a foreign market, it's important to know what your customs compliance management will look like, and it's important to understand your product so much that you're able to claim the benefits or the duty exemptions that you would be entitled to. And for this, we were just talking about partnerships. So for this, we look into free trade agreements with different countries. And of course, UK is in negotiations with a free trade agreement with India. And not just India, when we're looking at any South Asian market, getting benefits, preferential rates of duties as per free trade agreement is a norm. So companies should be mindful of what geographical location they're trying to expand into so that they understand the market, they understand the compliance level, they're able to leverage the supply chain benefits out of that market. And it's also important to get support from a market like India, for example, because India is a bustling market. So when we're looking at exports, someone who's just sitting in the UK and doesn't know the Indian market so well, it's important to leverage services like customs broker services in India. And that is how you're able to get a hold on the regulatory compliance in a country like India. Because India is like, it sort of specializes in so many things. It is also coming up in terms of digitization of trade and customs. So it's important also to look into how transparent the digital platforms in India are, because Today's times, digitization is extremely important when it comes to international trade. So yeah, just understanding these platforms in different countries, trying to understand the privacy concerns that come with the digital platforms. So that is all about the contemporary international trade that we're talking about today.
And what about, so obviously there's some great advice there, and you can go and you can speak to consultancies, you can buy Alyson's brilliant book, but where do you go for free advice on how to take the first steps? There are, Allyson, I can see you nodding along, but the government does a huge amount of work in this space, doesn't it? So it's just knowing, I think, sometimes where to look.
Absolutely, and coming to events like this as well. But absolutely, the Department for Business and Trade, which you obviously will know very well, so do I, by working with them for a long time, offer workshops, have publications. You can get an advisor, an international trade advisor, to give you time as well, and their expertise, and also introductions. The other thing I think that's a really good and often underexploited resource is your trade association. So if you are not yet a member of a body that represents your sector, you definitely ought to think about joining. They'd go to trade shows. They too make connections. They have publications, usually a magazine of some kind that comes out weekly or monthly. So there are plenty of free resources out there. You don't need to spend incredible amounts of money necessarily. It depends on how specific you want your advice to be. Yeah.
Okay, Kim, I can see you nudging forward. Would you like to add something?
No, only one of the things, and actually listening to some of what you were saying earlier when we were up in the green room, you were talking about sort of translating things into, and actually one of the things that I learnt was it's not just about translation, it's about transcreation.
Yes.
It's actually that whole thing about changing. So you were talking about different names and how they, but actually there are things, so on part of our platform, as the children read along, the words change colour when they get them right. But actually you have to be really, really careful, because if you choose the wrong colour in a specific environment or country, then that can offend, rather than, so it's really important to kind of understand that. And sorry, another thing that we learned, they know in India, I talk for England, is around, we run a pilot, our first pilot that we run in India. Now over in the UK, when we run that pilot, it's a free pilot, it's a National Read Aloud Challenge that we run every year now. But in India, if we run it as a free pilot, people wouldn't go for it. So we charge 100 rupees for them to take part in the free pilot. And because of the buy-in there, but then that extends to another thing that we learned, and that is that it doesn't matter in India whether somebody pays 100 rupees or 1,000 rupees or whatever. It's service. The moment they pay for something, they expect service because they give that level of service. They expect that service.
That's such great insight. And Russell, I know you want to add something, but I just wanted to remind people we're going to come to you for questions. So I'm going to start keeping an eye out. Please put your hand up if you have one. Russell, you wanted to add something to what we were discussing there.
So we've got a short time together. So I'll give you two pieces of advice on how to be successful with this research element about which markets to go to, how to export. And you're quite correct, there's a lot of government support available, also local government support and regional support. So two things. Number one, you have to overcome your Britishness. So as Brits, as a young Scotsman, right, I was educated by my father to do everything myself. I was educated to say it's a weakness if you ask for help to fix your bike when I was a little laddie, right? That was a weakness. Actually, today, I've discovered the secret to business is to ask for help. So whenever I start a project, the first thing I do is to think about who can I ask for help. So I'm going to drop a message to you and a LinkedIn message to you. And if I'm going to go into Bangalore, for example, or Delhi, for example, I'll send messages to the people I know in Delhi. So I ask for help first, right? The other one's about using the internet. So we've got great tools now that are AI enabled, since we can process huge amounts of data very quickly. They're very useful. But I'll give you a tip which isn't well known, which is, when you use something like Google, and you'll type in some words and it'll bring back websites that are relevant for that. Well, there's actually a command string within Google search. So you can type in the word file type and then a description. So for example, file type :PDF means that when you search, it'll only bring back documents. So if you imagine I'm a haggis manufacturer and I'm thinking about which world markets to go into, I could hire people to do research for me, or I could simply go onto Google and type in file type food research, or file type a breakdown on markets on blood-based food products. And what you'll discover is that what's returned is a report that's been done by KPMG or Deloitte or something. And suddenly, you've got all the information you could probably need immediately at your fingertips for free. So it's to look out for these types of tools. But the single most important thing is to start by asking for help. And you've got no idea how difficult it is for British people to do that, but it's how I start every single project.
Well, that's a really great tip, even for journalists. I'm going to be stealing that one, Russell. So, how are we feeling? Do we have some questions? There's a gentleman at the back. Thank you very much. If you could just give us your name and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Dylan, owner of the Mad4 company. I just want to find, with the whole global aspect, straight after this talk, we've got the panel on sustainability and climate and so on. And we're looking at expanding and talking about global expansion. How do we deal and get all those together and with that in our head?
Excellent. Excellent question. Thank you very much. And it preempts what I was going to ask about next, which is obviously travelling. So travelling to the markets. Kim, you've fallen in love with India. I hate to think what that means for your carbon footprint. But is that something you are actually thinking about and considering, you know, kind of reducing business travel?
Oh, yeah, well, it's really early days for us.
Yeah.
So at the moment, we're sort of just thinking past how can we get past these pilots? How can we kind of, you know, really get embedded into the country, into the culture? But absolutely, I think everybody's got to have sustainability at the back of their minds, regardless of what you're doing. But I think that, you know, one of the things that is a good outcome of COVID is the fact that, yes, you have to be present. You have to be there. You have to be seen to be there. You have to show that you care about, you know, the whole environment and everything. But actually, I think, you know, we also know that you can do quite a lot with Zoom. We can do a lot online and everything now. And yeah, of course, you have to do that. Not just, you know, from a sustainability perspective, but from a wear and tear on your body. It's blooming hard running a business.
And cost, right?
And, you know, costs. And, you know, it's kind of, I actually had to be in India on one occasion last year for a particular meeting that was really important. I literally flew over on the Friday morning and I was back home having lunch in my house on Sunday lunchtime. That was pretty hard going. But so it's wear and tear on your body as well. Mm-hmm.
Garima, what would you say to that? You know, is it when you're speaking to companies that are looking at exporting for the first time, are they weighing up the kind of size of the opportunity with also the impact that's going to have on the planet?
Yeah, of course. We have been talking about India's resistance to some of the environmental aspects that Europe and UK are very conscious about. So, of course, that is one thing. But we can't underestimate India and other countries around India in the sense that these countries are definitely very good market. So you can't just ignore them. So the challenge is striking the right balance and trying to understand the logic behind these countries who are still coming up and like developing, and they wouldn't want to give into any sort of environmental consciousness that we are talking about in Europe and in the UK. But yes, we have to weigh the right balance, like I said, understanding their concerns as well, and understanding where we are heading as a community, as a world. And what sort of environmental impacts we are leading the world to.
I'm sorry, we've got to take that. That's a fantastic question, and we've got to take it really seriously. So I'll tell you what I did. So I fly a lot on business, and the reason I'm flying is building global communities. By building these global communities, we can take action together to help to address things like climate change. But that's not enough. I have to answer a question. So I have to answer the question I'm going to get in 20 years' time from my granddaughter, who's going to go, half the world's unlivable in, Grandad. What did you do that destroyed the planet? I've got to answer that question. So my answer is that 2 years ago, I invested in an organisation and helped to create an organisation in Scotland. And we work to reduce the carbon footprint of companies. So we've now helped 120 companies reduce their carbon footprint. And now that's how I'm offsetting my own travel by doing it that way. And we have to take positive action. It's not enough to say we have to consider this. We have to, as human beings, sit down and agree what we've done and be able to prove it. So I think very strongly about that.
Thank you, Russell. And we're going to park that there because we have all of this to come in the panel this afternoon. We have a question here with the gentleman at the front.
Thank you. Great topic. So my name is Aldo Mancini. I'm with Silver Lining Experts. So I've had the opportunity to travel all over the world. And one of the things that I found is not only you need to be localized in your products, but also localized with your culture. So when you travel to a country, you know, I found in my history is just saying hello in the local language will give you loads of benefit. So in your opinions, can you pick a country that you have traveled to for all of us that are trying to expand internationally? How would you approach entering a new country?
Allyson, I'd like to come to you first on that,
Okay,
please.
thank you. So in my experience, I was raised in Germany as a child for a few years, and I think even making the effort in Germany, certainly making an effort in France, even if you master 2 or 3 words, yes, please, no, thank you, how do I order a bottle of wine? You know, that will go, all the very important things, right? But you're absolutely right. You know, when you do go face to face to another part of the world and you want to do business, just demonstrating your interest and that you're making an effort goes a whole lot, goes a really long way. I mean, I'm struck every single day watching the news, TV news especially, where the person being interviewed speaks in English. We expect that everybody should speak English. And it drives me crazy because as a French and German speaker, I spent all those years trying to master it. And yet, we just assume, oh, well, everyone will speak English. So making an effort really, really does go a long way. You're given a lot of credit for that.
And just to add, again, this isn't my forum, but somebody I have interviewed a couple of times is Will Butler Adams, the MD, rather, of Brompton Bikes. And he always talks about when he goes overseas, he'll go on a long bike ride, he gets on his Brompton, loads of customers come and join in, they do this big group bike ride, and then he'll go back to the homes of some of the people who work from him, he'll eat in their kitchen, at their table. And I just think that really kind of emphasises the point that you just made. It's kind of, Kim, I feel like you're jumping off the edge of your seat. What would you like to add?
No, I think one of the first things, again, sorry to bring it back to India, but that's where we are at the moment. Eating. Indians eat with, their hands a great deal. And actually, it was, I thought, well, there isn't a knife and fork to hand here anyway. And actually, the fact that I was joining in and eating in the same way that they were eating, just, I got a pat on the back from this wonderful professor that we're working on saying, thank you, I appreciate that. And another thing that shocked me, I had no idea, because obviously working in education, I was speaking at a conference and a child came over to me and they touched my feet. They kind of, that's the way that they honour what they call, I suppose it's a respect thing, especially if you're in education. And it was like, what's he doing down on my feet? And so actually, and then you understand, and actually just embracing that, just totally and utterly embracing it.
1 second, can we just get a mic just so that the audience at home can hear you?
No, I just wanted to add, it's to do with being spiritual, so they bow to your spirit rather than your feet.
There we go. I would bow to your spirit too, Kim.
Oh.
So do we have any other questions from the floor? Yes, excellent. The lady over here.
Thank you. It's more of a point, really, because I actually really applaud all of you that's speaking about this, especially unconscious bias, because that's really much relevant. And I'm sure many of us can relate. We go through that every single day. And when you're working with export abroad, it's also being mindful that when you're coming back to the UK to your own teams, are you following those traditions along here in the UK? So is there diversity inclusion there? Is inclusion in terms of people's roles? Are you asking them for help internally in the teams as well? So just bringing that with you. So like that, you just feel it's a full circle kind of way of working, and we're just going to get better as we go on. Because there's definitely improvement to be made.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A really good point. Thank you for adding that. And you do, don't you? It's a kind of a full circle thing. You bring things back to the business.
Absolutely.
Become a global company.
Absolutely. And what you're talking about really resonates with me because it's about this global mindset idea.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you really should not be thinking about any international expansion unless you're ready to take on the fact that difference is difference. It's not wrong. It's different. Mm-hmm. That's it. You have to suspend judgment. Yeah. You know, if I moved to this country 36 years ago and said for the last 36 years, oh God, they do it all wrong. They drive on the wrong side of the road. They do blah, blah, blah. You know, you can't do that. It's different. Celebrate it. It's fantastic. You're learning, and make sure you share that learning with other people in your enterprise.
Thank you. Excellent point, Allyson. Let's get in a few more questions. So there's one lady at the back, and then we'll come to you at the front as well. Let's fit in as many of those as we can. Hello.
Hi, I'm Hortense, and I own a brand of nuts and seed snacks. So just to expand a bit of what the lady said previously, my background is into international development. And what I find is that a lot of charities that are based in the UK, and I'm assuming some companies that are developing abroad, are not including people from that background within their company. Because if you had those people in your business, they would already prime you for where you are going.
Totally.
Instead of going and discovering over there. But if you work into including those people, because UK has all those people that you're chasing after. So think about including them here before you go there.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, isn't it? And it's all about building those kind of international teams that we hear lots about. Can we just bring the mic down to the lady at the front? Because we have literally 30 seconds. Let's see if we can fit that final question in, please. Lady just here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I just had a question regarding building resilience for the international market, because as we start to develop, there are sometimes very fast changes in geopolitical situations, and how to prepare for that.
Garima, I'd like to come to you on this.
I think the best strategy in that case would be to plan ahead when you're looking at a particular market. So from a regulatory standpoint, if you are secured legally, if you're secured at a compliance level, it's always easier to navigate, because these things come and go, especially the geopolitical situation, unless like there are usurping changes, like, for example, we had sanctions on Russia. So it's important to plan ahead and move or navigate your business as per the regulatory changes. Just be mindful of the changes coming up, try and understand where the market is going, what are the new dynamics that are coming up because of the geopolitical situation, for example. So just to be aware of, and of course, we're making use of technology and internet, so that's the best way to keep yourselves updated. So companies should be on their toes and looking out for new changes in terms of new sanctions or any new regulatory changes.
Fantastic note to end on. I'm so sorry we haven't got to the last two questions here in the front row. We'll grab you afterwards and perhaps have a word in the VIP networking drinks at the end. So thank you to all of my panelists, Garima, Kim, Russell and Allyson. That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Let's give them a huge round of applause.